A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to films I should have talked about years ago. And here we are at it again. Some more of the newest edition of Planet of the Apes. Here we have ourselves Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the sequel to Rise. But this was in fact where the series turns itself around to make itself even bigger and potentially better than ever. What happens here is that 10 years after the first known rebellion of the apes themselves, in San Francisco, an enormous virus outbreak shows up. And after a decade of time passes from the time that it first happened to the very time where the present happens to connect with us audiences, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes simply starts off very strong by giving us an enormous post-apocalyptic dystopian world that is simply there because of an enormous viral outbreak. Huge levels of events have happened of all sorts. And being that we've had ourselves similar things that have happened, it seems that it's now more significant than ever. Being that it shows a lot that could potentially happen, it's pretty incredible how we never quite had anything like what the movies have shown. But the thing is, it's easy to fabricate something for the world of fiction, because that could take much less time compared to what real life has to offer. Well, anyways though, after this pandemic happens to come to an end, it's a conflict between the apes and the humans. Territories are established and boundaries are simply set upon between both factions. The apes have their own territory in the world, where they can roam wild, free, and hopefully from any sort of conflict with humanity. However, there happens to be something pretty big that happens. Michael Douglas does in fact come around and tells everybody through a loudspeaker that they need power for their city. Their city is unfortunately unable to continue work as normal. Operations of all sorts cannot be done properly without electricity. Unfortunately, a substation that can help provide juice for the electronics and other such equipment that they have in their own city is actually located within the apes' territory. A group of scouts, armed to the teeth with firearms and other weapons, actually go through the woods where the apes live in order to find this station. This power station, by any means, is not easy to get to, and by the time they even come close, an ape actually pops up, invisible in the trees, but unfortunately, after some time, a fight happens to break out. It gets shot and left down on the ground. The scouts are then surrounded by apes as they start to come towards the now helpless victim of this little shooting. So of course, these soldiers are dead meat, just simply waiting in the apes' territory for a potential death, blows to the head and whatnot. Ultimately, it just comes down to simply them being let go. But eventually, a meeting actually happens. The entire ape army actually walks up to the human city where they would actually announce that Caesar himself would actually be able to let everybody know they are no longer welcome in the apes' territory. They are not to set foot. They are not allowed to do anything at all that associates with them wandering in their own territory. So of course, the boundaries are now permanently settled. Caesar, of course, still does have some sign language talent alongside most of the other apes that are also living in the woods in their own sort of fortress that they made themselves. However, Caesar actually has the ability to speak human-like. So the thing is, he can now speak like us. Andy Serkis once again nails it with some astounding performances and plenty of gravy on top. So this, of course, is just one of those examples where he does even better than usual. It's much like how we've seen Harrison Ford. He's simply gone from being Han Solo to a good majority of other roles, then becoming Han Solo again, only to get killed on screen. So, he's definitely done better than this. Enough said on that part. But the whole movie itself, from then on out, just continues to have all sorts of nail-biting scenes. The apes talk to each other through their sign language as well as vocal notes. Once again, Caesar is speaking human-like here, so he no longer has to use sign language to his own ability by any means. But the apes themselves still fear that the humans will come back and eventually do more than just simply harm one ape. It could potentially be more than one ape the next time they even try to strike. So it eventually boils down to a few unique options, one of which would be to either retreat or fight back. So when it comes to how the apes and the humans cooperate with each other, there are quite a few moments in this movie that I could possibly highlight. But the biggest and most significant would happen to be the very ending. An evil ape who has an extreme disregard and hate for humanity, known as Koba, actually comes along and tries to really pull the plug on humanity's life as they know it. But it does not work out well for him. And Caesar himself once again establishes how the ape rule is simply certified. And when the ending of the film comes around, it turns out there actually is going to be some sort of conflict that happens. A conflict known as a war. So stay tuned for when I talk a bit about War for the Planet of the Apes, as I have given that a watch today, so I have plenty of fresh ideas to possibly speak of. And if you want to see more, go down to my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.